was the last time you heard your voice asking yourself, "What do I want?" And then said it out loud? Not what makes sense, not what's practical, not what your mother, boss, partner, or inner critic would approve. Just what do I actually want? Welcome to episode 7. What do I want in my 40s? Before we start, I have to share a good news first. Finally, after recording 7 episodes of looking like I was broadcasting from either a haunted basement or the surface of the sun, I finally figured out the lighting. Now you can actually see the real me. No more shadowy silhouette like I'm in witness protection, and no more blinding glow like I'm auditioning to be the next Messiah. Just the right amount of light. So, I'm human. Progress, yay, I'm proud of it. Now let's get back to today's topic. What do I want? To answer this question, let's talk about what it takes to even ask the question. Because clarity doesn't come before the voice. It comes after. You don't need to have the perfect plan. You don't need a 5-year vision board. You just need to say it. What do you want? Out loud. But here is the twist. Historically, women were stopped right there at the first stop. The act of voicing desire was the forbidden fruit for women. Let's start with history that they don't put in history books. For most of human civilization, the gold standard for being a good woman was simple: be quiet. Historically, a woman's voice wasn't just discouraged, it was taboo. In many cultures, the very sound of a woman speaking to a stranger was considered inappropriate, even dangerous. So, women learned to muffle themselves. Sometimes literally, pressing a finger to their lips or placing it inside their mouths to distort their voice and hide their femininity. Being heard was a risk. Sounding like a woman was even riskier. Fast forward to today, and in some parts of the world, women are still forbidden to sing publicly. Not because they lack talent, but because their voice is still seen as too much, too provocative, too powerful. So you see, across cultures, religions, and centuries, silence wasn't just encouraged, it was required. Obedience was safety. Be nice, be agreeable, be invisible, unless you are decorating the room. And if you dare to speak, it better be soft, short, and serving someone else's needs. Compliance was a virtue. Voice was forbidden. So, we learned to shut up. Before we even knew, we had something to say. And now, fast forward to today, women are still debating whether or not their ideas are ready before they dare speak them. Meanwhile, across the conference room, some dude named Brad is presenting a half-baked idea he scribbled on a napkin after his 3rd IPA and doing it like it's Nobel-worthy. The fact is, men are out there sharing the dumbest, most unresearched, illogical nonsense with a straight face and a booming voice, while women cannot even voice their simple desires. Why? Because men were taught their voice belonged in the room. Because men were never shamed for wanting. Because men never learned to fear the sound of their own desires. And women? We have doctoral level internal monologues that run 24/7. We host nightly TED Talks in our head What do I want? Is it okay if I want it? Will people hate me if I say it? Will the world implode? Will I die alone in a cold studio apartment with 3 cats and unfinished potential? Women have experienced this legacy of silence since the beginning. We weren't just discouraged from speaking. We were systematically trained not to. In school, we were rewarded for being well-behaved, not outspoken. At home, we were taught to be helpful, not honest. In relationships, we were praised for being low maintenance, not self-expressive. At work, we were labeled difficult for doing the exact same thing as our male colleagues were applauded for. Generations of women have swallowed their truths to survive, sometimes quietly, sometimes with a smile. You know the loop. We spend days, weeks, months thinking through every angle of what we want. We journal, we analyze, we cry, we visualize, and then we say nothing. We don't dare to voice it, and then it comes back again, same thought, same want, same ache, and again we do nothing. Some of us have looped the same internal debates for years. Not because we are confused, but because we are silent. And maybe, just maybe, we do this on purpose. Maybe this exhausting mental treadmill is our shield. Our shield from change. Our shield from the fear of disruption. Our shield from the possibility that we will be held accountable for what we really want. Society pulls us in every direction. Be nurturing, be sexy, be productive, be spiritual, be natural, be Botoxed, be, and be. So when we finally ask, what do I want? There is often silence, not because we don't have desires or answers, but because they have never been voiced before. Here's the deal. Voicing what you want demands action. Voice comes first, then vision, then action, and lastly, change. You want to get unstuck? Start by saying what you want. And most of us have been trained to be too timid to voice our desires and truth. So instead, we silence ourselves. Desires, saying it out loud makes it real, and real things demand action. And we have been conditioned to doubt, to delay, and downplay. So we go quiet again. Women are not confused, we are conditioned. We know when our relationship is off. We know when our job is draining the life out of us. We know when we have outgrown the persona we have been performing. But we don't say it. If we say it, then we have to change something. And change risks disappointment, confrontation, or failure. So we suffer in silence and call it being stuck. But it is not stuck. It is muted. Your voice is first, and the clarity is the second. We keep waiting for clarity before we speak. But in reality, clarity doesn't come before voice. Voice creates clarity. Your voice is the ignition key. Your truth is the GPS. But without the key, you are just sitting in the driveway staring at the map. You don't need more thinking. You don't need another journaling prompt. You need a sentence. Just one. I want. Fill it in. Don't shrink it. Don't explain it. Just say it. Scream it in the car. Whisper it in the mirror. Type it in a text you will never send. Because until it leaves your mouth, it is not real. It is just a fantasy. And unspoken dreams are not noble. They are just tragic. The real midlife crisis, it is the echo chamber in our own heads. At 40, we don't hit a wall, we hit a confrontation. A reckoning between the life we have built and the one we actually want. And the echo we hear when we finally ask, what do I want? Isn't silence. It is a voice buried under decades of conditioning. So let's excavate it. We have spent too long being the polite, polished woman in rooms full of loud mediocrity. Let's get blunt. If he can pitch his half-formed idea like it's a TEDx talk, you can ask for a raise. If he can talk over experts with zero research, you can say what you want in your own damn life. If he can fumble through a meeting with unearned confidence, you can own your desire without apology. Let's call it what it is. Men have been running societies for centuries. And just look where that has gotten us. I honestly don't think women could do a worse job if we tried. So why don't we dare to try? This is not about volume, it is about validity. Your voice isn't less worthy because it's soft or emotional or cautious. It is worthy because it's yours. So let's practice this together. Finish this sentence. I want. Say it out loud. Feel the tremble. Let it be messy. Let it be bold. Write it down. Share it with a friend. Scream it into the void if you have to. But don't keep it locked inside, because the moment you say it, you change your trajectory. Not because someone else heard you, because you did. We have been trained to be silent. Now it's the time to train ourselves to speak. And believe me, I know how hard that is. I have lost count of how many moments in my life I should have spoken up and didn't. Not because I didn't have something to say, I was afraid of what would happen if I did. So I swallowed my truth, stayed quiet, and then replayed that moment in my head for days, sometimes weeks, and honestly, sometimes years. My God, truth is bitter, but I have to accept it. Blaming myself for not having the courage to say what I needed to say. If that's you too, you are not broken, you are conditioned. This transition from muted to expressive, from agreeable to authentic, it's not a flip of switch and doesn't happen over time. It is a daily practice. Start with small desires. Even something as simple as choosing your own dish from a menu matters. I have caught myself eating things that I didn't even like just because I didn't say what I actually wanted when sharing plates with friends. And yeah, it's going to feel awkward at first. You might tremble, you might regret it, but one day you won't. Because voicing your truth is a skill. And it gets stronger every time you use it. And sure, maybe it's late. We wish we had found our voice in our 20s or at least 30s, but we didn't. We are finding it now in our 40s. And now is still on time because the alternative is staying silent forever. Carrying your desire to the grave like it's a dirty secret. No. Late is better than never, always. And I'd rather show up with a shaking voice at 40 than spend the next 20 years wondering what it would have felt like to finally voice my truth. So speak, even if it's small, even if it's messy, even if your voice shakes, because one day it won't. The world doesn't need another woman doubting herself while watching a man fumble through his fifth brilliant idea. We don't need louder voices. We need braver ones. So go ahead, say the thing. The life you want is waiting on the other side of that sentence. And hey, since I'm out here reclaiming my voice, and since we are on the topic of using our voices, if any of my words resonates with you, like, share, comment, and engage with the women in 4D's series. Because I'm not trying to walk this road alone. This is your chance to practice. Drop a comment. Just say what's on your mind. It doesn't have to be polished or groundbreaking. It just has to be real, to be you. Believe me, if this channel were called Men in Their 40s, we had already have 1,000 comments. Confident, loud, and 73% nonsense. So let's flip the script. Use this space. Say something. Voice it here first. It counts. I'm not here to perform. I'm here to connect. I need other brave voices in the room because I've spent enough years in silence and I'm done with echo chambers. Let's talk. Let's disrupt. I want to hear your voices. That's it for our talk on voice and vision, because before we can see clearly where we are going, we have to be brave enough to voice it. So in the next episode, we are going to talk about something we all do but rarely admit: outgrowing things, and then pretending we haven't. We outgrow roles, relationships, careers, cities, dreams, even versions of ourselves. But instead of letting ourselves evolve, we grip tighter. We stay committed to what we once wanted, who we once were, or what we once made sense. Because change feels like betrayal, or failure, or chaos. And then what happens? We get stuck. Not because we don't know what to do, but because we don't give ourselves permission to change our minds. We force ourselves to keep wearing a life that no longer fits. Then wonder why we can't breathe. So, in the next episode, we will unpack that stuck feeling. Not as a flaw, but as a signal. Because outgrowing something isn't the problem. Refusing to move forward, that's where we lose ourselves. Let's talk about what it means to let go with grace, with guts, and without guilt. Because midlife isn't a breakdown, it can be a breakthrough if we let it be. See you all then.